Hey, how's it going, guys? Yasukeh here. I'm going to be making this video doing a VOD review of a very specific game to explain many concepts behind my philosophy and my playstyle with Mid Tryndamere, and kind of showing and explaining how to do many things that you'll often see do, especially things that are different from other people who potentially play Mid Tryndamere. One thing that is very commonly said about me by pretty much any jungler in high elo is that I am just a terror to them. Every single game, I will invade the enemy jungle level 2, contest their rates, and never be punished for it. And a big reason of that is just because of Phase Rush. You can't necessarily do that safely without Phase Rush, so I will explain the strategy of how to do that, as well as many other concepts related to Mid Tryndamere in this video. So, we're gonna get started on this game. So, ultimately, first off, I can know that Mundo is starting red based off of where they were coming out of lane, and based off of just many other factors about who looks like they're leashing. And ultimately, it doesn't matter what side they start. Both side clears, if a jungler clears red buff and Krugs, they will be at rates at the same time as if they cleared blue, Grump, and wolves. Because Krugs take incredibly long to clear, basically the same amount as this, so if you are starting red side or blue side as a jungler, this strategy will work no matter what. And so, first off, we're going to be playing the lane normally, but then also trying to slow push the first wave and then fast push the second wave. So right now we're just ultimately focusing on our lane opponent right now. One thing I'm doing right now is that trying to get many minions low to then spin through for Fury, and then once we're in a good spot for that, we'll just get the spin off, wait for the bone plating to proc, then Phase Rush out, and then since I have Phase Rush, not only did I not get slowed right there, as you can see, we'll show it right here. So I didn't get slowed despite his W, which allowed me to constantly walk back and forth, baiting him into walking into me. So I got several additional auto attacks off that I wouldn't have been able to get off. And that's something that lethal tempo Tryndamere would never have been able to do in that situation. So this is the wave that we're hard pushing in. And what this does is it forces this large wave, relatively speaking, to be pushing so that the enemy mid laner won't be able to contest at first. So I ward that. And then since he wasn't there already, I see that he's going to be there late. So I'm just here to fight him, you know? And he's just dead. And we're going to go here. I'm a level ahead, by the way, because of that kill. And I have enough healing. I know that I can take this fight. So I pretty much just solo won the game at that point. Doesn't matter how much the rest of my team really feeds. Having your mid and jungle get to that kind of point is going to be completely, like, game-winning. And then so we're going to continue going. I'm going to stay. I see my jungler right here. We're going to continue going. With Doran Shield and with your Q, you can stay in a lot of situations that you normally wouldn't be able to, just because of how insane Tryndamere's regen is. And that's another thing that I see a lot of lower level Tryndamere players do, is not spamming Q. If you aren't going for a fight, if you don't have the ability to go in on somebody, you need to be pressing Q. I will see many lower level Tryndamere players that I am coaching hold their Q and hold full Fury when they're 50% HP, and nobody is there to be in a position where they could fight them. So what I am going to do right now in this situation, in this little screenshot, is I want to force Ryze to attempt to try to kill me, but then not be so far forward that he actually does have the ability to kill me. So I spun in to get those minions to not only get Fury, so that I'm a little bit healthier, as my Q is also coming up soon, but then also got in range to where he thought that he could go for the kill. And then all of a sudden, just dead. 'Cause not only did I kill him and his jungler, we also went to bait him in a way where most champions wouldn't be able to do anything right there. But Tryndamere specifically can do so much right there, even when low. And so he got really confident in his ability to lane in that specific instance because he thought that if Diana comes, it's just perfectly fine. But it wasn't, because we're just built different. So we're going in again. Gonna go back to the wave. I bought CDR boots. Buying boots early, really, really good to come back to lane. And CDR boots also act as sustain for Tryndamere. I'm gonna be having another video talking in depth about every aspect of the build soon. And also, I'm going to this fight, seeing what I can do. Top laner died, they went 1-for-1. I can still trade on this because I see where Ryze is. And wasn't able to get everything, so we're going to go back to lane. We're going to just clear the wave right now, just get some minions. And then I see that Ryze and Mundo are going into the bot lane right now. But there's not much that I can do about it. However, me wasting his time right there makes those minions die to turret, so now I have an XP advantage. So now since he roamed and he got denied XP, especially because I was wasting his time here, that means that I'm going to have the level 6 advantage on him at a certain point. So we're going to go for another back for an econ buy. I think I'm probably just going to get... Yeah. Since I'm not going to lose any minions for backs, and then also, one thing about rushing boots is that you have much more movement speed, so you can afford to take backs that are hypothetically lower econ, but are actually good because you have the movement speed to get back to lane quicker. So when you rush boots, you don't lose as many minions. Which is why even if you're going a standard build with Berserker Greaves, very, very often you do want to just rush Berserker Greaves. If anything, just so you can get lane control more quickly. Not even speaking about how important movement speed is as a combat stat. In games like League of Legends, movement speed is by far the most important stat. And that's a big reason why movement speed is getting nerfed so much. So yeah, I see Ryze going over there. We're just going to clear the wave. I'm 6, Ryze is 5. So if Ryze gets into a situation where he's trying to fight me, he won't be able to. He's level 5. I have Ignite, I have ults. I know that he doesn't have Flash. So what are we going to do? He procs Phase Rush, and I didn't. So that means that now I can just kill him. And so I can take this dive right here with just Ignite. And Phase Rush allows me to stick to him very, very easily. And it's also not based off of the Ghost cooldown, which is something that's very... that's one of the biggest issues with standard lethal tempo Tryndamere, is that without Ghost, you aren't able to stick to targets. And Ghost is a 180-second cooldown. So for many plays, you are limited to making it every 180 seconds, whereas Phase Rush is a 30 to 10-second cooldown. So having that movement speed so much more often allows you to take trades with the increased movement speed, whereas Ghost is something that you have to use in an all-in. Ghost has to get some kind of value. Whereas I can just use Phase Rush to get a couple auto attacks off on Ryze, or escape a gank. One thing that any jungler who's ever played against me will know is that it's almost impossible to gank Phase Rush Tryndamere, because not only do I have 600 movement speed running away from the fight, but then also just having ult on top of it, it's really, really hard to catch Tryndamere out when you have Phase Rush. Whereas with Ghost, it's much easier to play around Tryndamere. It's much easier to say, hey, Tryndamere's Ghost is down, this will be an easy gank. Phase Rush, always up. So we're gonna continue on. with this. Just push the wave. Probably gonna go for a back right now, get more stuff. As I don't have ult, don't necessarily have an ability to make a play. So we'll just go for the resets. And since I'm also rushing cooldown reduction, one other thing is that since Lucidity Boots give Summoner Spell haste, if you trade Flash with somebody, then you have Flash up before they do. So you can trade a Flash with somebody, and then force your Flash when they don't have Flash. So that's another massive benefit. And then also having Ignite up more often allows you to make plays much, much more often. And then also, having Ignite is only something that I would recommend with Phase Rush, but having Ignite allows you to 1v1 many of these high health and healing champions without necessarily needing to spec into Grievous Wound. Sylas, Aatrox, Mundo are very popular champions to play, and they're champions who can be sort of drain tanks, but they don't need to be drain tanks if you just have Ignite. So yeah, my ult's gonna be up in really not that long. We'll see what we can get right here. But yeah, ult's up, my flash is up, his flash is up. Doesn't necessarily matter me having red buff. He also just procced Phase Rush again right there, which means that I have a Phase Rush advantage, which is the biggest way that you want to play against other champions that have Phase Rush, is want to force them to proc their Phase Rush, and then use yours while theirs is on cooldown. And they can't do that same thing to you, but you can do it to them. And there's also the fact that melee Phase Rush is much stronger than ranged Phase Rush, and with the nerfs to Phase Rush a couple patches ago, Phase Rush got significantly nerfed on ranged champions, but not as much for melee champions. If anything, in some ways it could be argued that it's buffed because of how much lower the cooldown is late game. So yeah, I have all of that right now, so just go ahead and get the kill. And then also, Mundo is trying to come after me right now, so what are we gonna do? We're going to try to not die. And then since I have this ward right here, always really, really good to ward the enemy jungle, especially in a spot like this. It's a very common pathway. Other spotted ward is like right here. You could ward on this other side. You could ward it right here as well. These are pretty common jungle ward spots, at least for me. And he can't go for me, even though I was pretty low health. We were still in a position to kind of do anything we wanted right there. So we're going to just go ahead and get the back off, get more golds. I have all of my components for Essence Reaver, but I don't necessarily have Essence Reaver. One of the big benefits to Essence Reaver is the Sheen proc allows you to take turrets and turret plates so much quicker. And then also with this build, you have 40 CDR in your first item. With one thing being that Essence Reaver is also the cheapest possible rush item you can get, is a reason why so many champions have always rushed it. Like, you'll still often see Riven, Rengar, which are two mana-less champions, by the way. One complaint about Essence Reaver on Tryndamere is the fact that it has a mana passive, but Rengar and Riven are two other mana-less champions who will very often rush Essence Reaver just because of how ridiculously strong the item is. And the supposed nerf to it just also reduced the gold cost, which makes it an even faster buy, which is another way that it's arguably made to have been more powerful. So we're going to continue here. All right. And I have the ability to take this camp, so we're just going to do this, and then every single time you take somebody's jungle camp, you are getting a 4 CS advantage on your opponent. Because not only are you getting the 4 CS from the camp, but then you're also denying the 4 CS from the enemy jungle. Getting enemy jungle camps is it's not the number one, but it's one of the best things that you can do to just completely ruin the enemy jungler's day. Because another thing is that enemy junglers like to pre-plan out their paths in advance. And if you do these things like invading the enemy jungle level 2, taking their camps, one thing that I would really often do is prepare to take the enemy's second red buff, or their first red buff. And then also, if you look back at the level 2 play, sometimes I will just, if they are a slower clearing jungler, I can just push in the first 2 waves and then take red buff in front of their face. And I'll be able to get it before they clear wraiths. And then if they come for wraiths, then I'm still just wasting their time. And very often with these invades, even if you don't necessarily get the kill, you're getting a 2 camp advantage for your jungler. And that's absolutely huge in the early game. If you're 2 camps down before they first scuttle, all of a sudden you're a level down. You lose the first scuttle, you lose the second scuttle, and then you win the game. Because your jungler is up by 2 scuttle crabs. So we're going to continue to go right here. I should have known that this was down. Just because of the timing of what was going on. We're going to look to see for that gank. Didn't necessarily be able to happen right now. I see how far bot is overextended because they were going for this gank. And this would have been fine, what they just did right here, if I wasn't cutting them off. And since I have ults, the turret doesn't exist. The turret does not exist. So I can just go for this very easily. Got that kill. And they can't just run past me right now. They are stuck. And then so we see the Rise coming over here. So we're going to go ahead and get the kill on the Rise. And then we're going to see if we can get something in the bot lane. Which, easy. Go ahead and get all of that. That's also just one thing, is that you'll notice with all of these roams right here, it's really important to be looking at the map and seeing what's going on, because if I was only looking at what was happening mid lane right there, I wouldn't have noticed that there were 3 people low on my bot lane turret, significantly overextending. So I wouldn't have been able to look at that play if I wasn't looking at the entire map. And that's something that you can do with F keys. F1 through 5 will show will block your camera to your teammates. And it's very, very useful to get used to actually doing that. And then so this is us getting the first turret. I'll have tons of gold right now. Already with the 6-0 start. See, ultimately, if you are able to ruin the enemy jungler's pathing, junglers are not very used to thinking on the fly. And they're especially not used to thinking on the fly when it's the mid laner who's invading them. If a jungler sees another jungler invading them, that's probably happened to them before. And they'll know, alright, hey, maybe I have to path this way. But what if the enemy, my jungler, as Tryndamere, is pathing one way, and then I'm going to fight the enemy jungler. I'm going to invade. I'm going to try to take his camps. I'm going to try to kill him. I'm going to try to waste his time. Then all of a sudden, the enemy jungler gets put into a no-win situation, or a situation where they have never actually experienced it before, which is also something that can only be done with Phase Rush Tryndamere. Because lethal tempo is not a reliable escape tool. One thing about Phase Rush is that it makes you so safe while doing this that if everybody is rotating towards you, you can just proc Phase Rush and then just run away. And there's nothing that the enemy can do about that. You are incredibly safe when trying to take that fight, and everything will just be like very, very reliable ways of trying to win the game. And then so we're just gonna finish this up. Go ahead right now, got the blue. Trying to see if there's any kind of gold that I can take. I can just force down this turret. We have no pressure to really do anything else. I can't necessarily dive the Scion right now. That's not what we're gonna look for. Was gonna look for a play mid. And we, let's go back a little bit. Yeah, so since I can't get the play in the side lane, because I can't dive Scion, I'm gonna look for the play in the mid lane. And even if this play wasn't possible to happen, you should still be looking for it. So then I get the kill. And then also right there, we'll go over that in slow motion. So we'll go right here. This is one very, very big positive about Phase Rush that you can see right here, is that I've procced Phase Rush. Scion ult is there, right? Lethal tempo Tryndamere gets hit by the Scion ult. And in many situations, getting that CC chain would make it to where you just die very often. Not necessarily in this situation, but it's just an example. So Scion is right here, but I have Phase Rush. So I can literally just walk right around the skill shot because of how much MS that I have. And then we're still just able to get the kill. And then I will ignite at the end. I note that he doesn't have any shields that he can take for himself, so that puts us in a good spot. And then we'll continue. Really just taking the wave, taking the turrets. There was this play that was going on right now. I can just see what's happening. There's 4 here. So this is another really common thing that you should be doing as Tryndamere, is that if there's a fight that you can't take, or you cannot longer participate in, like if you're in a dragon fight, you burn your ult and now you're really low health. You want to, for the most part, just leave the fight and then go farm another lane. There was that fight that was happening right there, so I'm just going to go mid lane. I'm going to farm this. I can take this turret right now too. And because I have Essence Reaver basically allows you to crit turrets. Every time you do an Essence Reaver proc, it basically just doubles your damage to that turret. So you can take turrets in a lot of situations that people aren't necessarily used to. So once again, taking jungle camps. Every one I take is an 8 CS differential, which is going to be very, very, very useful. What did I just do? Okay, not used to necessarily how the replay system works. Yeah, we will go all in. And I don't necessarily think that there is anything else that was happening in this game, just because we have nullified every single one of their win conditions, because not only did we play top, not only did we play bot, we also, the most important thing is invading the enemy jungle. If you can, the enemy jungle and the jungle role in general is the engine that makes an entire team work. If you constantly invade them, especially from the start of the game, you are destroying the enemy team's engine. And without that engine, it becomes so much harder to play the game, because now they have to win their lanes with a significantly weaker jungler. And that's going to be something that's going to be very, very hard to do. So I would highly recommend first taking Phase Rush Tryndamere, because it's one of the champions that is best uniquely suited to this, because Tryndamere can fight pretty much any jungler, especially with Ignite. And then also with Phase Rush, you can escape from any situation, no matter how bad it necessarily looks. If you're trying to take lethal tempo, you're not necessarily going to be able to reliably escape from those situations, so you aren't going to be able to push yourself so deep. And that's generally the big benefit of Phase Rush, is that you can go deeper because your escape potential is higher. Not only does Phase Rush have more movement speed, but then also the slow resistance is a massive, massive part where Ghost can't make up for the power of Phase Rush. So yeah, thank you guys all for watching. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. See you guys in the next video. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye and good night. Yeet!